This video is going to be about Julian Assange and James O'Keefe of Project Veritas. And of course, Julian Assange was WikiLeaks and is in prison now for simply bringing us the truth. Now, James O'Keefe got fired from his job for bringing us the truth. Both these men shared the common ground of bringing the truth to the people over making a profit from doing so. And the same is with my channel. I'll never monetize my YouTube channel, and I'll not put advertisements on my websites. Now, what we have here, I wanted to show you, is the U.S. population, 331 million. It's good to have an idea of that. The global population, of course, is almost 8 billion people, with China having 1,400,000,000 population. They've got U.S. outpopulated 4 times over. But let's go to a couple videos I uploaded. Yesterday, I put one up with Julian Assange, okay? And then, after I got done with this and uploaded it, I did another video about these Chinese satellites, lasers, that were beaming down across Hawaii, and that was transpired about a week ago. But then James O'Keefe came out and gave his testimony of exactly what transpired within Project Veritas and how they teamed up against him to remove him from Project Veritas. And the interesting thing is their names. Julian, now that means young at heart, and James means supplanter, which means to take over, okay? A replacement. Which you can look up their names, which means, okay, a young at heart replacement is what I see James O'Keefe as for Julian Assange. But imagine if we could get Julian Assange freed to team up with James O'Keefe. But many people are going to step up and help James O'Keefe. I've had many people, I had a guy comment on this video right here that I put up. He never supported or donated money to Project Veritas, but he's going to watch James O'Keefe very closely, and whatever project he gets involved in, he's going to donate money to help James O'Keefe launch whatever he chooses to do in the future. And to James O'Keefe, what I would say to you is look back to the very last chapter of Genesis. In chapter 50:20, you will find that Joseph, he was sold into slavery by his brothers. He was actually put in a pit and then sold into slavery because they were jealous of him. And that's what I think the team at Project Veritas is about you, because everybody was watching you and what you were doing, and apparently they turned their motives and wanted more profit. Therefore, Joseph was the favorite of Jacob, and I think the brothers thought that Joseph would be receiving more of the inheritance from his father. But what happened is Joseph wound up being the right hand of the Pharaoh, the second most powerful man in Egypt during a drought. And right now we are going through a drought of truth with both the mainstream medias, one pushing the right narrative, one pushing the left narrative. So right here in Genesis chapter 50, verse 20, but as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save much people alive. Because Joseph saw, and this has to do with climate change, which is interesting, in a vision, he saw 7 years of plenty, but then he saw 7 years of drought in this vision. So he told Pharaoh, and then Pharaoh said, well, what should we do? And Joseph said, build huge grain silos, store the grain in the 7 years of plenty, so that we will have enough to survive and help out all the surrounding communities survive the 7 years of drought that is soon to come. Now, if they had climate change activists back then, they'd been going crazy. The climate change activists actually need to go back to the 1500s to where they researched tree rings. And you will find all over the world, and from also reports and writings of what transpired in the 1500s, that there was a global freeze these trees for 3 consecutive years had very little growth. And also there were people talking about cold weather in warm climate areas during the same time period they date these tree rings back to. So you had 3 years of a climate disaster that encompassed the world. And you need to go back and research that. Maybe I'll do a video on that in the future, but there's plenty of them out there. So I'm going to end this video here, and I just wish James O'Keefe the best of luck. I hope you watch this video, James, and read that, or somebody get that to James, this Bible verse, because right now he is going through a time to where it's painful to get pushed away by people that you've been working with and come to know and call friends, and then all of a sudden they say, well, we don't want you here anymore. And if you ask me, I think Pfizer had a little bit to do with James O'Keefe getting pushed out, because the mergers of these mega companies that have come together, and then they're all tied and linked back to the CFR, which basically gained control of all U.S. media in 1921. And I'll be putting up a video about that, because you can go back to Oscar Callaway. He put into congressional records a statement talking about how J.P. Morgan and Associates in 1915 got together and bought out the 25 most influential newspapers in the United States of America. And that's actually documented. I plan on doing a video on that. I started one the other day, but man, I had like 1,000 tabs opened, and it was like, oh my goodness, I don't have time to get into this right now, because I want to bring it to you clear and concisely. And you can actually read it here, but I want to actually go to the congressional records, because it reads the same as what you're reading here. So I'm just going to talk through this, and you can pause this and read it for yourself, because I will be reading this and putting in another video. It's the timeline of things that transpired. This transpired in 1915 when they bought these top 25 newspapers, because they knew that what happened and transpired was all the smaller towns got all their breaking news from the 25 most popular newspapers. And at the time, J.P. Morgan Jr. is the one that did this, because J.P. Morgan Sr. passed away in 1913. So what J.P. Morgan had was interest in supplying not just steel to the building of military industrial complex, the building of that, but also the munitions, and also steel for building buildings and whatnot. So, but he had the munitions contracts not only with America, but with Europe. So all munitions were being, steel that was going to, and munitions that were going to Europe from the U.S. were from J.P. Morgan in interest. And so this was 1915. Control the news, work us, and get people riled up in the United States of America to join World War I. So we did. And the controlling interest in the newspapers, which is J.P. Morgan, not only made money from the publications, but money from selling the steel that was needed to fight this war. And so then we move into 1921, where the CFR was set up, and they were given control of media policy. And then you started to see a bunch of companies merge. And then radio came along. Well, the people that controlled the media of the newspapers jumped right into radio and took control of the media of the radio, as that was broadcast out through the United States. And then television came along. Well, the same controlling interests that were inheritors of the hand-down that the people started in 1915 received control, and they continued on with the policies and control of news via television. And the same way is worked up unto today, because the CFR, founded in 1921, we'll go look at that real quick. I'm getting deeper and longer than I wanted to, but I'm going to do a quicker video on this. But so this will give you an idea. The Council on Foreign Relations was founded in 1921. Now let's go to today's 2023 corporate members of the CFR, and you're going to be amazed at who you see their founders are, what they say their founders are nowadays, 2023. And of course, you can search this yourself, CFR corporate members, and they got their own CFR.org page. So it's amazing that right here is their corporate members page, but they have these listed as their founders. Look at these founders. These founders did not exist back in 1921. But BlackRock got their hand in everything. Bank of America, Apple, the Human Energy Company, Google, Meta. I mean, it just, and when you look at the list of the President's Circle, it's just, it's amazing. When you look at this, you'll understand not only corporate and capital control, but you're going to see the mainstream media control, all these news stations because of mergers, like Disney's in here. And just pay attention, because these people are pretty much setting the narrative of divide and conquer by way of left-wing and right-wing media coverage. Seek the truth daily. The truth will find you seeking. Please share, subscribe. I'm going to be just trying to get as much historical truth out to you so you could connect the dots for yourself and see the picture for what it is today.